All right, there we go. Perfect. All right, what's up, everybody? It's episode 6 of Office Hours. It's your boy, Big Stowe, and my homegirl Nora is, yes, I actually got it right this time, right there. And yeah, this is episode 6 of Office Hours. This time we're talking about Twitter. Nora, what's up? How are we doing today?
I'm doing good. Twitter is my favorite social media platform, and so I'm excited to talk about it and make people love it as much as I do. My name is Nora. I'm a creative consultant. I run Culture Fix. Basically, my work is around helping artists and creative entrepreneurs be successful without giving up their financial freedom or creative control, and really using their platforms to be successful, but also do good in the world. Stowe is a writer, music journalist, all kinds of good, talented stuff that he does. So as y'all are joining us, Third, welcome, Galaxy, welcome. Guys, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. Tell us who you are and what you do. We want this to be as interactive as possible because this really exists for you all. So
Right.
Today we're talking about Twitter, but if you have other questions that come up or other things that are on your mind and you want us to talk about, tell us whatever's on your mind and we'll take it there. I think it's important to tell people, Stowe and I met on Twitter.
Right.
Like Office Hours is possible because of Twitter. And we met because I connected with someone through a Twitter chat that then connected me to someone else that then connected me through someone else who then connected me to Stowe. Like there was a couple degrees of separation before Stowe and I met. And then we met on Twitter and built a whole friendship online before we finally met at A3C. And then, started collaborating and working together. And so I hope folks see us as an example of how great social media can be when you use it correctly. Shout out to Third, who's here just to learn. Galaxy X is a music producer and kind of manager. I'll tell y'all, most of us are kind of managers. There's no one goes to school and learns how to be a manager. You just kind of fake it till you get there. So shout out to the managers. Stowe, how are you doing?
Doing all right, hanging in there. Excited to talk about Twitter. It's also my favorite platform. And of course, as we're kind of going through things and stuff like that, let us know how the audio and the video is. I know I've been having some technical difficulties on my end. So just let us know kind of if we're laggy or if people are popping in and out and stuff like that. And yeah, we can keep going from there. So
this is a question I get a lot where people are like, do people even use Twitter? Is it still relevant? I thought Twitter was dead. And the short answer is yes, people definitely still do use Twitter. Why do you think it's important as a platform still?
Honestly, I think Twitter is important as a platform just because I just think it's more unique. My video is off and I'm a little choppy. Okay, I don't know what in the world is going on with my camera, but I'm going to try to change it as we go through things here. But for me, there we go. Twitter is important just because it's a different platform. It's different from Facebook and MySpace, where I felt like it was more text-based and status-based, I guess is what I'm getting at. And Twitter still kind of holds that, but it kind of shortens it down, I guess, and makes it puts it in kind of bite-sized chunks for people to kind of take in at a different pace and at a different way, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. There's so much potential and just diversity, I think, on Twitter. And again, you can connect to literally every single person, or not every person, but so many people across the entire universe through Twitter. And it's definitely my career, not just as a journalist, but as an artist, and just other opportunities that I've gotten in the past, whether Afro punk or dead end hip hop or some of the other opportunities I've gotten, would not have been possible if not for Twitter.
Yeah, I think Twitter is a place where you lead with ideas and thoughts and conversation. And so it's designed for people to talk to each other, and it's designed for this like back and forth to happen. And so for people who like visual, I hate taking photos. I hate Instagram because it forces me to constantly like show my work. Whereas on Twitter, I can just like think out loud. And so Twitter is a place where you can lead with your ideas, which I think gives people a chance to stand out. Everyone is at your fingertips. You can message whoever you want and they'll see it. You can at whoever you want and they'll see it. So there's no, in that sense, it's not even though there are like verified accounts and blue check marks, there isn't really a hierarchy in the way that you see with some other social media platforms. So you can access almost anybody and they'll engage with you because it's such a low risk platform to interact with people. And so you can really think about, like, from a networking perspective and a visual, like, leadership perspective, there's a lot that you could do there. And the third, what was the third thing I was going to say? Everyone's on Twitter. You lead with ideas. I don't know. It'll come to me, y'all. So it does matter as a platform. It's accessible. It lets you connect with people, and it lets you kind of establish yourself as a thought leader. And so yes, people do use Twitter, and it does matter as a platform, but it is a different language from other platforms. And that's the thing that I think people really need to, once you figure out how Twitter is different as a platform and start to speak that language, you can't just post your Instagram to Twitter, right? You can't post the same things that you say on Facebook to Twitter. So as you start to kind of learn the language, Twitter can become a really, really great place to connect with people and start to build relationships, but to also establish yourself beyond just buy my music, to really showcase the things that, you know, kind of creatively, intellectually set you apart from other people. So yes, it totally still does matter. I think one of the things, I'm going to transition us to the next question, that people often struggle with is you come on Twitter and you're like, my feed is shit, or you don't know how to, like, it's a little bit like you walk into a room and there's a billion conversations happening, and you just need to find the conversations that are interesting to you. One way to do that is to proactively search for hashtags. Hashtag music Twitter, hashtag hip hop ed, hashtag culture fix, hashtag Black creatives, hashtag the listening. Use hashtags to see who else is having these kinds of conversations that you're having. Who else is interested in the same thing that you're interested in? If you're a K-pop fan, look up the name of the K-pop band that you really like and see who else is talking about them, and start to have those conversations with people. You just kind of got to throw yourself into people's conversations. And to really just talk to people about the things that matter. The meaningful engagement, I think, more than any other platform, is important on Twitter, right? You can get on Instagram and you can throw a couple emojis in someone's comments and, like, all right, cool. But on Twitter, the quality, kind of the substance of the back and forth is really, really important. What do you think, Sto?
Yeah, for me, I think finding the right connection sometimes is kind of just breaking down the things that you're already a fan of and what you're already supporting. So, for example, almost any publication that you are a fan of, chances are, has a bunch of different writers, photographers, whatever, that you can kind of get in tune with. Following strictly the publication honestly can be kind of a mistake, because the person that you're trying to connect with is not running that account. There used to be this like huge kind of misconception that, well, Double XL or whatever has all their writers running this account, but that's not the case. One person or two or three people or editors or whatever, if that, are running the account. So you're better off following the writer who wrote, a review for your favorite album or whatever, and following them and supporting them and their endeavors, versus following the publication and spamming them and hoping that they catch your tweet. Because they're hoping that all the spam tweets go to that account rather than to their writers and editors and stuff like that. So there's that. And you can, again, the search bar is such a good tool, yo. It used to happen all the time when shows were going on. But, you know, if you're looking to get playlisted or genuinely, or looking for different publications or different writers or whatever, just type it in the search bar. 9 times out of 10, people are taking submissions for their different playlists or publications or whatever. And that's an easy way to shoehorn yourself in. Now, again, like, one of the things with Twitter, and I'm sure we're going to get into this, like, it's not just about finding the most opportunities to copy and paste your link. I feel like a lot of artists fall into that trap of, oh, well, I've sent my link to 50 people who maybe are looking or are asking for submissions, but that's not really going to get you the growth and stuff that you're looking for. But I'm going on a tangent at this point.
So you said a couple of things that I want to highlight. I also want to highlight what Serial Sensei is saying, that you're more likely to build a relationship if you follow and interact with actual people and not the head account.
Right.
Which the key word there, y'all, is to interact. If you're just sending links, people are going to ignore you. That's spam. Don't spam people. Spam is not a relationship. Right. Spam is not going to get you. No one's going to watch that. No one's going to listen to you. And next time you reach out, they're going to remember that you spammed them and ignore you, or you'll get blocked. So to really, really build a relationship means you talk about shit that matters. You read an article and you add something to that conversation, or you, as Hip Hop Caucus reminds us, copy and paste is garbage. You have to really fine tune the pitch that you're making or the relationship that you're having, especially in media, because there's so much turnover at different outlets. Building a relationship with a journalist, building a relationship with a curator. There's a lot of turnover at like media outlets. There's a lot of turnover at labels. So you want to build a relationship with the person so that no matter where the person goes, that relationship is still intact. And if you build a relationship off of shared interests, if you build a relationship off of common values, if you build a relationship off of things like that, then no matter where someone is, y'all are going to be tight. And then you can leverage that to ask for different things. Actually, Hip Hop's Columbus, who's here today, is a great example, because we built our relationship. I was just talking about this today. I don't remember what it was talking about. I think I tweeted something about how Dwight and Angela are a better relationship than Pam and Jim, or something. It was like some Office reference. And we had a whole like streak of going back and forth with Office gifts. Had nothing to do with music, had nothing to do with like selling or pitching, or it was just, here's something that he and I had in common that has been the foundation of our relationship and friendship now. And so you can use Twitter to connect with people in these authentic, meaningful ways, in kind of deep ways, because you're talking about things that you genuinely care about, right? Whether that's media or politics or sports or pop culture or whatever it might be. I think the other thing about Twitter that's unique is that Twitter allows for collective experience to happen, right? Like people watch Versus, but what do? They tweet about it.
Right.
Or they're watching the debates, but what do? They tweet about it. And so anytime there's a moment that's kind of happening, you can get on Twitter and use that to be in community with other people and participate in those conversations so that you all are experiencing this together. And there is a bonding that happens when you experience some kind of big moment with a group of people, whether that's in real life or virtual. Just for posterity's sake, Tim, if you're team Jim and Pam, I don't trust you. Dwight and Angela, all the way. We could do a whole conversation about that. But I want to post up this question that Galaxy is asking: is how would you interact with someone who's not that active? What would you say, Sto? That's a great question, actually.
I mean, honestly, there's two different routes to kind of go about. Uh, the first, to answer your question kind of directly, is I would kind of, based on their Twitter profile, look at kind of whether it's a website, whether it's like they're somewhere, they're working somewhere, and usually you can find an email or again a contact inbox or something like that. But this is kind of the answer I kind of lean towards more is if they're not that active and they're not really like bringing that much, I guess, to the table. Like I guess my thing is like why put so much energy, I guess, in trying to get their attention, I guess is my thing. When there are so many, because I understand exactly what you're saying because I kind of used to have something of this mentality, but if they're not that active on the platform, I might consider seeing if they're active on other platforms. And then again, like I said, my thing is, not to put that energy there and see who and focus on who is active on Twitter, because there are, if it's not that exact person, my whole thing is if they're not kind of in your path or in your destiny now, like there's someone better in your path and on your way. So I don't know. There's other people that you can follow and other people that you can kind of interact with instead of, putting all that energy into someone who's not active.
Yeah. And I would push back and have you think about why do you want to interact with someone who's not active rather than looking at the people who are around you. Because that's, if there's someone specific you want to reach out to, find where they are active. Or are they on Instagram? Or are they on LinkedIn? Find the platform and meet them there. But sometimes people are like, oh, I really need to get Beyonce to pay attention to me. And so then they're like tagging Beyonce and everything, trying to get her attention. And if Beyonce's never on Twitter, you're just kind of wasting your time. And so you want to think about how to really be efficient. Hip Hop Columbus says, Galaxy X, sometimes people will see tweets directed at them, those that start with their handle, even if they don't post much stuff themselves. That's also true. People might see you and not interact, but what you're missing there is even if someone sees the tweet, you're missing the interaction. You're missing the back and forth with someone who's actually active on Twitter. The other thing I want to say before we switch to our next topic is one way to find people that you should follow that are useful to you is start with someone whose account you really like and look at who else they're following and start following those people. And you can start to curate what your timeline looks like so that you're following the type of accounts that bring value to you. I always tell people, look at who Stowe is adding in his like infamous Stowe tweets and start there if you really want to get a good kind of overview of music industry people who are knowledgeable, but who also are interactive. Let me pull this other. You guys, I love that you're sending all these questions. Thank you. And as folks are coming in, please introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do. Share your questions. Should you go with a more direct approach or a soft, open approach?
I mean, for me, it depends on what you're trying to do. So if you could be kind of more specific on what you're trying to accomplish with this message, that'd be great. But if all you're trying to do is get your music into someone's hands, I'm not sure Twitter's really the best approach to do, or what. I don't care what it is, whether it's listening to your music, collab, insert what you want them to do here, because that's what I'm assuming here. Like you're going for an ask, and so in which case, like depending on what that is, like, and especially if you've already determined that they're not that active. And actually, here's one way to see if they are active is to check their tweets and replies, because sometimes their replies, and especially if their direct replies, are hidden from the timeline. So, if you're just trying to get someone to listen to your music or whatever, or get a favor or something like that, you kind of have to go for a direct approach. Because the thing is this, is if they're not that active and their time is limited, and it doesn't sound like they give much people time of day to begin with, like kind of going through this soft, open, like, kind of BSing until you can get to ask your favor, that just usually annoys people and gets you blocked. So, again, it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. But a direct approach can help, but again, like a proper professional contact, if you can find that, that's usually like my preferred venue, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if someone came up to you and just asked you for something, no hello, no introduction, no previous relationship building. You'd be like, But if someone came and was like, yo, that shirt, Nintendo, I play video games too. Hey, what's up? Now you have an in and you can start to build that relationship. And so you always want to take time to build some kind of rapport before you go into the direct approach. And someone else asked the question about mass messaging people on social media. Don't do that. Don't spam people. Don't send anyone a message that is not tailored for them. Consumers are really smart and they know, and the technology exists to personalize things. And so if they're getting something that's spammy, that feels copy and pasted, that's unsolicited, you know, a random link in their Instagram DMs or a random link in their Twitter DMs, they're not gonna, not only are they not going to click through, they're probably gonna have a bad feeling about you, right? That's gonna turn people off. And so take the time to build the relationship, especially on Twitter, where you can talk to people about all the things that they're interested in. And so take that time to do a little bit of that groundwork first. And then if you want to make a pitch or you want to make an ask, you can get into the DMs and do that in a way that's professionally. I found, Hip Hop Columbus says, I found long-term interaction to be the most effective. Most people with influence have a lot of engagement and take a while to notice someone consistent. Yeah, it takes time to build a relationship. And so Twitter is not a platform where you like go in and it's quick. It takes some time. Kind of on that note, there's so much noise on Twitter. How do I make myself stand out as a unique voice?
Excuse me. For me, I think it's all about kind of honing in on your voice, and what it is that interests you and what you bring to the table. I don't know. I just feel like so many artists and content creators or whatever, I feel like try to force a certain voice or try to force the sound a certain way. And I'm not going to front. I used to be guilty of that too. But you know, I think your biggest thing is kind of, first off, observe. I know this sounds strange, but I feel like so many people hop on Twitter and just like, all right, I'm here. I want 1,000 followers right now. If I don't get it in a month, this platform's garbage. And I'm going back to Instagram where people like my stuff. And it's just like, whoa, hold on. So slow down for a second. Take your time. Like follow some people that actually fall in line with the things that you believe and think and stuff like that, and see how they're tweeting and how they're kind of putting stuff out there. I'm not saying copy them, but it will give you kind of an idea of where to start, not just from just kind of what do I type? Because I get it. Like I'll never forget. I hopped on Twitter, my God, back in 2009 or whatever. My friend hands me the app. Was like, dude, you got to hop on this. Like you have to. I'm just like, what do you want me to do here? I don't, what is this? So it's really just about finding your own voice and what you're interested in. And I know it sounds weird and it sounds corny or whatever, but like when you harness, I feel like your entire self and kind of hold that without kind of holding back, like people do notice that, because people notice the other side of things. People notice when you're fake as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really good feedback coming from the chat. Again, Hip Hop Columbus says, don't ride waves all the time. Echoing what others discuss just makes you blend into the crowd. And Serial Sensei says, even as an introvert, you've got to be willing to put yourself out there a little on Twitter, be personable and genuine. And Complications, I see your question. I promise you we'll come back to it because I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
I think the thing on Twitter to make you stand out is, one, you have to be authentic. Whatever your voice is, whatever your thing is, you just have to be yourself, because that comes across and people respond well to authenticity. They trust it. The other thing is you have to stand for something. If you're wishy-washy, if you're like, you have to think about what's the value, and this is true across platforms. What is the value that you're bringing to someone's timeline? Are they coming to you for
Exactly.
humor? Are they coming to you for critical analysis? Are they coming to you for, you know, I don't know, like shit talking, whatever it might be, right? Are they coming to you because you're really good at live tweeting things? Whatever it might be, you have to have some kind of perspective. And the beautiful thing about Twitter is that you can talk about 4 or 5 different things, right? I can go from tweeting about Afro beats to overthrowing capitalism to how I'm not going to the gym again until the pandemic is over to here's a link to this event I'm doing to, hey, Stowe, I think you should get a dog. Like all in the span of, just kidding, don't get a dog, don't get a dog. But you don't have to curate yourself so much on Twitter, which is part of what allows the authenticity to come out. And so one way to make yourself stand out is to have a perspective and to have conversations with people around that perspective that you have. But you can't be afraid to say something. And I think the accounts that do the best on Twitter are the ones that that do say something. I think specifically for artists, there's certain ways that you can make use of Twitter that really, I think Twitter is like the best platform for. So Stowe, if you were to name like 2 things that artists specifically should be doing on Twitter, what would they be?
Oof. So I'm honestly just gonna start with, I'm just gonna have the one and then toss it over to you. I say this, I feel like I say this every week now, but I genuinely believe this in most things that you're doing, whether you're getting organized in your real life, whether you're doing activism or whatever, you got to change your mindset. It's so easy to hop on Twitter. Almost, I'll say 80%, almost 90% of artists fall into this trap. And I used to fall into it a lot. But now that anyway, got to change your mindset. And that comes down to, it's so easy to hop on Twitter and just start retweeting things and just saying all types of just whatever. And just tweeting, life sucks, and oh my God, the sports this, and this. But if you're an artist, you are now a business. Mm-hmm. And one thing I would strongly encourage you to do is to follow a few labels, follow a few of your favorite artists, maybe not necessarily artists, because I think, or not necessarily mainstream artists, because I think that once you reach a certain level of stardom, you can literally just tweet out whatever and nothing happens. But specifically follow labels and artists that are kind of in the same realm as yourself that you see are doing, or that you see are being successful or whatever. You'll see that their Twitter and their feed is completely different than your average user who's just tweeting out memes and GIFs and all this other stuff. If you're, and I see a lot of people just a block of retweets and nothing from yourself. It is so easy for your voice to get lost in a block of retweets. Again, I used to do this all the time where I don't care what, if I liked it, I'd retweet it. And that it's so easy for what you're doing and what you're trying to bring to the table and what you're trying to sell to get lost in that block. So for example, think of HBO Max or whatever. You don't see them just tweeting willy-nilly, just oh my God, this, that, and the other. They're focused on their brand and focused on the products that they're selling. Now, obviously, I'm not saying you only want to just tweet about, hey, my music and this, that, and the other. You want to add some personality to it. But at the end of the day, you have to be tweeting as though, or remembering that you're selling a product and remembering that you're a personality that you're still trying to appeal to people, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. So change that mindset.
Yeah, well, I think the important thing is, you're not trying to please an audience. You're trying to show up as you are, right? This is what I do. This is why I do it. This is what makes me different. These are the values by which I do things by. And communicate that clearly on Twitter and communicate it consistently. Serial Sensei says, if you only retweet, I'm definitely not following you. You got to have some kind of original thought somewhere. And I think that's the critical part is Twitter is your chance to add to the conversation. And so if you want to retweet something, retweet it with your perspective on it. Retweet it with your analysis, or retweet it, but quote tweet it so that you're adding, or respond or reply so that you're part of these conversations and people start to see that you have something to add. I think specifically something that artists should be doing on Twitter is follow music accounts very broadly and very diversely. So if you're interested in touring, for example, and you're interested in touring to Germany, follow some German music radio stations, follow some German blogs, follow, the Nigerian radio stations are some of my favorite accounts because they put me onto new music way before anyone else does around what's coming out of Nigeria, for example. So really thinking about how you want to diversify what you're exposed to so that you're using Twitter as a place that you're learning from and gathering information from. Obviously, you want to vet whatever comes your way so that you're not getting like fake information.
Right.
But Twitter as an educational platform, as a resource, right? We've been talking a lot about how Twitter is your chance to put things out, but Twitter is also a way for you to bring in new information. So that's one thing that all artists should be doing. The other thing is to make sure that you are cultivating relationships with your fans. Twitter is a place to interact directly, like with your audience. So anyone who's talking to you, respond. Anyone who's mentioning you, respond. Like, you have to have that back and forth. And then thirdly, and I think this is actually probably the most important, is Twitter might not be the place where you're like, listen to my music, buy my music, buy my merch. Like, it doesn't necessarily lend itself to that so well. But because, as we've said, it lends itself to relationships so well. Who are entertainment lawyers, who are playlist curators, who are the people that you want to build relationships with, and you can build those relationships on Twitter. I have tons. I mean, I can tell you stories like this all the time because it's my favorite to be like, oh, I want to work with this person, and then use Twitter to build a relationship with them. It brings people. This is the thing, you guys. Twitter allows you to engage with someone as a peer and as a colleague instead of as like a fan or a groupie. And so if you can do that, then these other industry people, whether they're writers or producers or event curators or whatever it is that you feel like you need, right? Whoever it is that you feel like you need that contact with, you can approach them as an equal rather than as someone who's like trying to make an ask or trying to get them to give you something or do something for you. And you can start to build a very authentic relationship that then you can leverage or build an exchange from or whatever. And so that's the thing that I think artists should really, really be doing, is use Twitter for the relationship building aspect. It's like literally a virtual networking platform, more than LinkedIn, more than Instagram, I think more than any of the other platforms. Twitter is where you can meet the head of the Grammys or the guy who, I mean, whatever, like literally it's all at your fingertips. And so you just have to be a little bit strategic around doing it. And then to make sure that you're also being respectful and not being an asshole or trolling people or any of those things that happen. I want to go back to this question from, don't worry, we didn't forget complications question. Let me pull it up now. And as folks are coming in, please drop your questions or any comments you have in the conversation. Third says that Twitter is the best networking platform. I really think it is too. Okay, so this question from Complications says, I did a giveaway for a release I had yesterday. I advertised it beforehand on all socials and it isn't doing well, only 4 entries. Why would something with consumer incentive do so bad?
I mean, there's a lot at play here. I advertised it before on all socials. It depends on kind of how you advertised it. And listen, guys, like one of the first things I'll say is that like consumer incentive doesn't always work. It's not, you're not always gonna hit the fucking bullseye every time. Because I understand this frustration. I've done the same thing. And had like low results and stuff like that. So, one of the things to do is not just advertise that you're doing a contest, but advertise it in different ways. Right. Yeah. Like what is he giving away and stuff like that. Yeah. But you know, in terms, so there's a million things that you can do to advertise a giveaway, whether it's a video trailer, whether it's flyers, you know, using Instagram in the video in different ways, whether it's YouTube trailers or using the story feature on Instagram to kind of, okay, here we go. $50 for cash for an artist of my caliber. Oh, you lost me there. I don't know what the giveaway is.
The giveaway is $50 cash, which he thinks is okay for an artist of, or what they think is
okay. 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 So again, so my thing is when it comes to giveaways, contests, whatever, stuff like that, you have to remember, like, and I like to think of how other companies do giveaways. Some of these companies are advertising for weeks, months for these giveaways and stuff like that. And now for, you know, $50 of cash, like, you know, I don't know, when it comes to weighing out whether it's worth it to hop in or not, like that's a completely different question. But yeah, I'd say vary promotion and varying in how people see the advertisement, I think is one of the best ways to kind of get a product, a contest, or anything like that out into the public. And yeah, and like I said, just to hone in on my last point, like everything is not going to hit the bullseye every time. Some things are going to miss. And, you know, whether it's between times when you're promoting it, how long you're promoting it, what kind of graphics you're using, there's so many different variables.
Yeah, I think so. One, the giveaway, what is the pre-existing relationship with your audience? How much trust do they have? How much interaction do they have with you? If you just come out of nowhere and, you know, are like, hey, I'm giving away stuff. If you don't already have a little bit of a pre-existing relationship or back and forth, they might not be excited, especially now where audiences can access a lot of things and there's a lot of money there's a lot of giveaways. So one is making sure that kind of the pre-work is there and there's a little bit of a story that has your audience primed for whatever the giveaway might be.
Right.
The second piece is to make sure that the thing that you're giving away is actually what your audience wants and needs. You know, it's like when you go to like a convention and they just have a ton of like pens and you're like, well, there's a million pens. Do I really need this? And you just leave it on the table, even though it's free. So just because something is free doesn't mean that your audience is necessarily going to respond to it.
Right.
Which also brings up the question of how you value something. It might be worth looking at giving away merch rather than money, because that might actually be more valuable to someone. If you're giving me $50 and I don't have to work for it, I'm actually not as excited about it versus if you're giving me something that like is cool, that it's rare, that I can't get anywhere else, that might actually be more valuable to your audience than $50. So thinking about is what you're giving away valued correctly and valued to what your audience wants. And this is the part where understanding your niche and your customer is really, really important. And then the last piece is to think about, Complication says, hometown friends, out of 200-ish followers, I'd say I personally know like 25 to 35 of them, maybe 15. I know just through the internet. So it's
that kind of nails it. I mean, statistics alone, like this sounds kind of crazy. My bad, Nora.
No, okay.
Even in just like as crazy as this sounds, 4 entries between 25 to 35 people that you personally know. Who knows how many of them? I mean, I'm assuming that not all of those 25 to 35 people are artists. And then same with the other 15 that you know just through the internet. I mean, how deep is that relationship? Is it casual? Is it professional? Is it super deep that you can count on them every time you say something? But yeah, 4 entries, that's actually kind of late when you put it to percentage wise. And when you take into account how long tweets and posts on Instagram, like I said this earlier, like the half-life of a social media post is almost nothing. Like I don't even think it's 24 hours. So 4 entries with those type of analytics is not bad. Sorry, Nora, that's
no. Yeah, and I'm so glad. Complications, thank you for sharing that bit of information for us, because what you remind us is it's all about the perspective, right? And especially on social media, when you have 200 followers, looking at your analytics, you'll see that if you have 200 followers, only a small percent of people are actually seeing the posts that you're putting out. And then the people who are actually engaged, right? So you get a diminishing return, rate of diminishing return. So 4 out of 200 is actually not bad at all. Especially if it sounds like this is like something you're doing for the first time, or it's like new. So that's awesome, actually. Don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged by it at all. The thing I would focus on now is, how are you going to tell the story of those 4 entries, right? So like, you got 4 entries, celebrate that. And then when you announce the winners, celebrate that. And what are you asking the winner or winners to do to create a feedback loop, so that then those, you know, if only 25 people saw it this time and 4 applied, now next time those people who didn't apply are going to see that this is real and that there's this like celebration, right? Now they're going to want to participate. You're playing a little bit with FOMO. Plus the winner's audience gets it, so you're getting some like cross-pollination. So thinking about what the feedback loop is going to be beyond the giveaway. Giveaways are great. You just want to think them through a little bit. That was a great question, Complications. Thank you.
Yeah. The only other thing the one thing I did want to touch on with all of this is kind of the numbers game of it all, and Complications kind of touches on this. And I like to use myself as an example just because the whole point of social media, in my opinion, and again, on my tinfoil hat, is companies want you to be obsessed with these numbers. Follow, how many people am I following? How many people are following me? How many people like my post? How many people retweeted it? Oh my God, how many people are screenshotting my stuff? All that stuff. They want you obsessed with those analytics to the point where you're like, oh my God, am I posting the right stuff? So I like to keep this in perspective. I have over 7,000 followers on Twitter. That's a lot. And I'm very blessed to have those followers. Like it's done a lot for me and stuff like that. But if you go through some of my tweets and stuff like that, it's not like I'm getting super duper crazy interaction. All 7,000 of those people are not seeing my tweets. And I'm not seeing all, 3,900 people that I'm following. And it's not possible, because with how traffic flow works and how social media just works in general, it is impossible for everybody to see every single thing that you tweet. And to go back to Complications contest thing, you have to understand, like, if depending on how often you've been posting up to the point of the contest, straight up, people might have just flat out not seen it. It's not that they saw it and were like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that. It's flat out, it may not have ever shown up on their timeline, even if they're following you, because that's how the algorithm works. So one of the ways to kind of get your message out there is kind of like I said earlier, is to come up with a few different ways to advertise that content, and then be posting about it in numerous ways in numerous places. That way, you're not just focused on the one, because I see so many artists, they put the one tweet out there, then they will retweet that into oblivion until the algorithm is like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we're not going to share this anymore. So chop it up into different things and advertise your contest and content in numerous ways. Yeah. And don't get obsessed over numbers.
This is what I was going to say. Don't worry about your numbers. First of all, your followers don't mean shit. It doesn't mean they're fans. It doesn't mean that they're engaged. It doesn't mean anything. It's literally just the number of people who have clicked follow on your profile. And in the beginning, like, don't even pay attention to your analytics and your numbers. Like, when you're just starting out, focus on the qualitative aspects of the engagement and the relationship building, and like test drive what kind of content works, what kind of stories work. And like, just feel it out until you get a feel for what you want, and then you can start to experiment. But don't stress about your numbers. We've talked about this before, but 100 engaged, dedicated fans mean so much more than 10,000 like whatever fans who don't care about you. And so if you take nothing away from this, take away the fact that Twitter is about relationships. And so please use Twitter as a way to build relationships. Ariel says, A great example is how Kehlani promoted her album. It was something different every day, but it had the same theme. Yeah, you break up the same content into a million different ways.
Right.
So y'all, thanks for hanging out with us on office hours and talking about Twitter. We'll do this again for Instagram, and we'll do this again for Facebook. And
oh God.
you know, Facebook is still, I mean, everyone shits on Facebook, but it's still the most popular platform globally.
Most popular platform in the world, people.
Don't, especially for those of you who are interested in like international markets, don't sleep on Facebook. But we'll do a whole office hours on that. Please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure that you like. Please make sure that you send in any questions you have. We check the comments all the time. You can see my handle and Stowe's handle right in front of you. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. Both of us are available for one-on-one consulting if you want to like build out a strategy or go more in depth about any of the stuff that you're doing. And as always, if you have any questions that you want us to talk about during office hours, send those in to us because we do this for you all. So thanks all for hanging out with us. Wash your hands, wear a mask, don't go outside, stay home, socially distance. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time on office hours. Thanks, y'all.
Peace, guys.
Bye.